Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots. Vevor sent me their 4-in-1 hat press. Now before you scroll away, I'm not just going to use it on hats, but I am going to read the instructions because my dad always told me to. So this is a hat press and I'm going to show you various ways I use it on hats, but also all of the ways I use it on everything else. It's fully assembled. All you have to do is make sure this little platen or heat pad is on, plug it in, turn it on, and you are ready to go. So looking at the control panel, sorry for that vertigo, to set the temperature, you press the temp button, adjust, and then to lock it in, you press the temp button again. And then time is set the exact same way. So it's very easy to operate. We have a couple of other different variables like the heat pads and the pressure. On the front, we also have an easy access fuse and the on-off switch. If you've never had a heat press, get some heat-safe fabric and press it at low temp with low pressure and high pressure, and high temp with low pressure and high pressure. And I'm going to show you exactly why in just a second. So I went through and did all of these different sized heat pads at the low and the high, which I'm not going to make you sit through. But I do want to say, if you want to pull down the hat stabilizer and pop in a screw, it may be a little easier for you to get in here. You can also wear heat safe gloves to make sure you do not burn yourself. So I'm going to give a little close-up right here. There's a column on the front and a screw hole on the back. You just make sure the column fits into the section and you scooch it forward and screw it on. Now I don't do that, and this is why. Yeah, now I had to go find that. So I just lightly screw it in and then pop it down, press it forward, and tighten it from there. I don't burn myself that way, and I don't lose screws. It's a win-win for all. So I am going to test this with Infusible Ink. I'm using butcher paper. I'm also going to test it with a whole bunch of other materials, but this is why you test. When I pulled this out of here, we are at a high heat, significant pressure on this one because you can see it. That is the butcher paper. You don't want that on your project. So go through and burn off all that brand new business. Also go through and adjust your pressure. You can see here, this is the high pressure. It does a very good variance, and it did great on Infusible Ink and all of the vinyls that I used, and a couple of different low and high quality patches. So I burned both low and high quality patches with and without the sticky adhesive, and I'm going to show you how these each came out. Pretty much everything you see here except for the Infusible Ink was burned between 285 and 300. Infusible Ink is a little higher. Now I also did various vinyls, and the reason for those is because we all have various vinyls that we can use to customize hats and other things. So I'm using flock vinyl today. I'm using metallic stretch. I think those are the only two vinyls. I'm not sure, but I weeded all of those projects after cutting everything out, and I'm using really extremely inexpensive patches like this as well to show you if they really work with this press. So because this hat is going to have the patch on the side, I want to make sure there's still no creasing. So even though I'm just going to be doing the edge instead of the center, one of the tricks I learned is to put foam, heat safe foam, or fabric that is heat safe right up under the area you're pressing. So most people are going to tell you to line up this hat all the way to the edge. I'm going to show you yes and no. It's going to be dependent. So here I am, this is an inexpensive patch with no adhesive, so I am going to heat it up for 30 seconds using a thin silicone barrier, and then I'm going to put this patch right on, hold it for 5 to 6 seconds onto that heat to make sure it adheres somewhere, and you can see in the corner up at the left it did. So now I'm going to put it down under that adhesive or under that silicone sheet for 30 seconds at 300. There are no instructions that came with these, so I'm just guessing. So when I pull it off, you can see the bottom isn't done. Now, I pulled it all the way off, but normally I just scooch it up. But if you want, you can press the entire hat with the brim off the edge, meaning facing up. So I just wanted to let you know, you don't have to just follow the instructions for every hat. Depending on how big that stiff portion of your hat is, you may have to do it like this, and it works totally fine. And now you get a full adhesion. I always put the paper back in so it has a nice round thing as it cools, and here you go. Sorry for the reflection. I live on the surface of the sun. That's Texas. So here you can see I'm going to have 2.5 inches of an actual design on the front brim of this hat. So I know I was going to get asked about, can it do the brims? Can it do the backs? And the answer is, let's just put it under the machine to find out. So I'm going to see, this is my test. You can see it only has for 15 seconds, but I'm literally making sure that with a significant amount of pressure that I can get 100% of that hat brim, and I could. So here you can see I'm just going to speed this up a bit. I'm just using a little bit of heat tape to put this on, and then I'm just going to cut it so that my carrier sheet can be wrapped around. So then I pressed it, and here you go, straight out of the machine. I had to wait a couple of seconds because it's super hot. So after those couple of seconds, I'll pull this off. And you can see this is absolutely doable. So this is the brim. If you're using brim clips, this won't apply, but if your customers want sublimation on the brim, or you want foil or whatever on the brim, you can absolutely do it. So I swapped out the pad for a smaller pad, and you can see there's wrinkles in it. So instead of creasing anything, I popped under that fabric again. Again, you can use a heat safe foam, but I popped that under and those wrinkles go away, because we do not want a wrinkled piece when we're applying anything at all. So you can see I increased the pressure on this one as well, and now it's a little bit warm, so I could probably do without the heat tape, but I just, you know, a good quality heat tape is sometimes your best friend when it comes to vinyls, not so much patches. So again, I just made sure that I let this cool down a second because it'll burn your digits. And you can see this is the pull. I just love that. And it's perfectly adhered. I always rub it and move it and everything just to make sure. You can do another couple seconds if yours isn't, you know, really great, but anything more than that, you have a risk of burning it, or you can use the silicone. So here's how the brim came out and the back. I was really happy with this. This is going in my car. Now, for those of you who are wondering about this one, this is another Richardson 115. While I had it on the press, I dropped my camera. It was a whole thing, but here's my word of warning. It melted it, so I pulled it all off. This will be a pool hat for us. Always set the timer, because I was distracted and that was on me. All right, so now let's start all of the other ways Sarah will use this. So I forgot to do the ribbon, but I use ribbon a lot and customize it. And so you can always do this with ribbon and a bit of vinyl. I'm here pressing a wine bag. So this is my favorite type of patch, and that is, it has adhesive on it that I can kind of move around and position. I can even pop it on and then adjust it when I get the level out or whatever. This is my, like, these are the best. You don't have to use heat tape and a little bit of silicone. Again, no instructions on this patch, but 30 seconds under some silicone with a medium pressure, and it was just perfect. I always like to pull the edges up just to see if it's okay after it cools down for 5 or 10 seconds, and this one was great. I really love selling wine bags around here. Okay, so now we're going to show you, probably my favorite way of using a hat press is sleeves and the bottoms of t-shirts to customize anything like that, because the nice rounded edge works perfectly. So here you can see I'm doing 3-second presses on these flock heat transfer vinyls. The entire front of this sweatshirt for my daughter is a flock vinyl, and this is just that sleeve decoration that's so popular. So it's really easy to layer with a heat press as well, because you're standing there, you can count 3 seconds or set the timer for 3 seconds, either way. But once you have it all done, you can see this is a full piece of Teflon on top of this, and it just came out so well. I love flock vinyl. If you're new here, it's so fuzzy and fun. I also did quite a few thicker materials. The first was a very high seamed jean jacket, and all I do is make sure I get some adhesion on this first quick press, pop in some foam or some fabric, and then I really make sure that those seams are no longer a problem with that fabric underneath. And 30 seconds, I think. I didn't even think this one went 30 seconds. But now we have these perfectly pressed, inexpensive patches onto really thick material. Another way that you can use this press, and I'm not even kidding, I do it all the time. I use it as an iron or a full press if I'm too lazy to go plug in my big presses. Always, always, always unplug your heat presses when they are not in use. It's just a safety thing. Here you can see I'm making sure all of the seams are out of the way, and I'm going to attempt to press on these garbage patches onto a tote bag. And this is just plain canvas, 100% cotton canvas tote bag. I do the same thing. Give it a little heat, hold it in place, and now I'm using silicone because, again, I don't know if these things are going to melt with Teflon for 30 seconds, but look, perfectly fine. I do let them cool down a little bit, and then I just give them a 3-second press with the Teflon just to make sure all those edges are good, and then I repeated it on the other side, and now we have a 2-sided tote bag. So one only con that I found is the front 2 feet can scratch. So this is contact paper. I put it on every one of my craft tables so I don't damage them. And it did in fact scratch up the bone, the front right and the front left. You can see over here of each of those. So just put a mat underneath those feet or be working on wood. So I will put a link to this below, but I wanted you to be able to see this is the exact one I have. If you're unfamiliar, Vevor is not a new brand. They are about making things simple and affordable. I really appreciated the aspects of this machine, and I used it quite thoroughly for, to tell you that I absolutely recommend the brand and the 4-in-1 hat press. I really appreciate you being here with me today. If you have any questions on this press, just let me know. If you have any questions on the projects. Thanks for being here. Please like and share and subscribe for more crafting fun.